focus on hitting your goals in every area of your business. Remember, the universe rewards the bold. A leader has to take the risks. Welcome to the Wealth on the Beach podcast. I'm Daniel Alonzo, and again, I'm your host. I'm so excited today. I've been looking forward to this interview for quite a while. This chick is awesome, okay? This lady is amazing. Her name is Amberly Lago. She's a leading expert in the field of resilience, transformation, health, and wellness. She is a best-selling author, and I love this book title, True Grit and Grace, and empowers people around the world by sharing her story of how she turned a tragedy into triumph. She is a former professional dancer and athlete, bringing a new perspective on what it takes to persevere. So, Amberly, thank you for being here. And resilience is your word. What does resilience mean to you?
Oh, thank you. I'm so happy to be here and see your smiling face. I think resilience to me is no matter how many times you fall, getting back up. And it's not just getting back up, but it's really finding the courage to persevere and live a life of joy and happiness, no matter what your circumstances are. I feel like it's not really necessarily our circumstances that define us, but it's how we view them and how we decide to react to them, because we can change our whole life with a simple shift in our perspective. And I mean, it's not simple all the time. Sometimes it's a little harder, but just knowing that we have the power to choose just makes a huge difference in our life. It did for me anyway. It changed my life, especially when I was told I would live in a wheelchair for the rest of my life and be permanently disabled, never work again. All these things, all these labels that I was given. And I decided that and even as far as my leg, they were going to amputate my leg. And I had a 1% chance of saving it from amputation. And I thought, well, that 1% chance is my glimmer of hope. And so I choose to focus on that. And that is what helped me to persevere and get through 34 surgeries. And then lead me to where I get to sit and talk with you today. So thank you again for having me.
Oh, I love it. Amberly, you are a total inspiration. You're inspiring the world. And look, we're going to get into a lot of your story, and we're going to get into a lot of stuff about that, but about grit and grace and all that. But look, I always as you know, on my podcast, I always love to find out about the person, I want to know where you were born. I always love to know what the parents did, what did your parents do for a living? Did you grow up rich? Did you grow up poor? Tell me a little bit about your early upbringing as a child.
Yeah. I definitely did not grow up with helicopter parents that hovered all over and, and we definitely did not have a lot of money. In fact, I remember there was this one Christmas where my mom said, we're not going to be able to give gifts this year. We don't have any money. And I'll never forget that Christmas, because as a little kid, I was heartbroken. And then somebody left, I think it was from the church, left anonymous box of money. And so we got to exchange gifts that year. And I grew up in a really small town in Texas, and my parents divorced at 8 years old. And then things really started to change for me. And I know most of us don't have a perfect childhood. Mine was far from perfect. I mean, there was a lot of change. There was abuse. There was, and my mom is she's an amazing man. She is an example of grit and grace. And so is my grandmother. And so I had wonderful role models, and she was such a good mom. But, she was busy working. She had 2 jobs most of the time, and she didn't have time to help with homework or to guide me in a lot of ways. But that was good, because it I knew that I had to figure it out. Nowadays, I think a lot of times when kids are having trouble in school, parents hire the best tutors, or you even hear of parents paying their kids' way into schools. And the way I was brought up was you have to work for whatever you want in life. So I started working at age 8. I started babysitting. Believe it or not, at age 8, I was babysitting other kids. I was scrubbing toilets. When I was 13, I started teaching dance. My first job at a real store was called the Cookie Jar when I was 16, and I was able to buy my first car on my own. And then I was able to save up enough money, which was $1,200, and pack my little Suzuki Samurai up and move to California and pursue my dreams. But I didn't have parents that came out with me and helped me find an apartment or even helped me pay for an apartment. It was like, those are your dreams. And if you want that dream, you're going to have to work for it. And so I did. And I am grateful for the upbringing that I had, because I don't think that I would be where I am today had I not been raised the way that I was.
That's very interesting, and it's interesting because I notice like a trend. It's amazing because we always think that these really successful people come from really successful parents, and I'm finding over and over. I've done 75 podcasts, and it's a common thread that I'm hearing now, that you're raised, whether you come from a rich family or a poor family or a medium class family, it always comes down to that decision that it's up to me. If it's going to be, it's up to me. And for some reasons, the successful people in the world, whether they came from rich parents or poor parents, they got that somewhere along the line. Do you kind of see that, how that's a common thing with successful people?
Oh, yeah. And I think that translates into every aspect of your life, whether it's your business or your relationships, or anything that you do in life, whether it's your healing. In the hospital, when I got out of the hospital, it was up to me that, okay, doctor saved my leg. It was up to me to get up out of bed and learn to walk again. When I started, I had to reinvent my whole business, because I was in the fitness industry. I've been in the fitness industry for 22 years. But I did do full-time personal training, and I reinvented myself and had to figure stuff out. Let me tell you, I didn't even own a computer. When I wrote my book, I did not even own a computer. I had a smartphone. I didn't use email. I didn't even know how to attach a picture to an email. And so I hand wrote my whole book and then bought a laptop, typed it up, and I've been figuring things out as I go along. And technology used to really scare me. Like, to do a podcast would really scare me. What do I do? What's Zoom? What does that mean? And now, you just do something over and over, and you're not afraid to make mistakes. And, we all have to start somewhere, and and so that's what I remind myself when I'm hard on myself about, I don't know how to do this. We all start somewhere, and the important thing is just to start.
You are the epitome of grit. Okay, I mean, like when I hear you, but I mean, it's just so refreshing to know that, and hopefully the people that are listening, that they know that they're not the only ones. Because come on, a lot of people are feeling the same way right now. They're like, oh my God, I don't understand how this stuff works. I don't know how the computer works. I don't know how to make videos. How do I make videos for social media? They want me to do social media. How the heck, So we all feel that way at one point in time, but how we overcome that is just by doing it and screwing up again and again, right? And you mess up, and then you fall down and you get beat up, and you're panic for a little while, but then you get back up and you say, I'm going to get it, man. And I don't stop. That is grit. Is that grit?
Yes, that is.
Right.
You just keep going. And, and the thing is too, I used to, really get so hard on myself about mistakes or I'm an overcoming perfectionist where it just had to be, perfect. And let me tell you, I am really over that. Like this morning, I had a newsletter that went out, saying I have a new podcast episode that just released. And there's a mistake in the newsletter. Now, before I would have been pulling my hair like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. Now I'm like, I'm human. Like we all make mistakes. And,
Uh-huh.
it's just getting up and trying it over and over again. And the funny thing is I was doing this speaking event. And so we were on stage and we all offered, a free, whatever it was. And my offer was a free gratitude journal. And I was like, yeah, I've made a gratitude journal for you guys and this and that. And I got off the stage and the guy after me was like, gave away a free $1 million home. And I was like, I walked over to him and I was like, I'm just kind of learning how all this stuff works. And I'm like, wow, man, way to one up me. And so we got to talking and it was hilarious. And so he looked at my stuff and he was like, oh, wow. Who does your social media branding for you? And I'm like, he goes, I'd like to hire them. And I'm like, no, that's me. And he goes, oh, I'd really like for you. Here's $1 million guy who's given $1 million home away. And I'm thinking he's got it all together. And he's asking me for advice. And I'm like, no, dude, I do not have it all together. I really don't know what I'm doing. I'm just sharing from my heart what I am going through or what I think may help someone else. But we all are just trying to figure it out in one way or another,
And then,
And
and
I
then
didn't
once
win
you
that house,
figure
by
out,
the way.
oh, okay, darn it. And then once you figure out something, what people don't realize is once you figure out something and you get something down,
It
there's another
changes.
level. It changes, right? Or it's just, and to me, what I always talk about is progress equals happiness, and I
Mm-hmm.
feel like why look, I'm not a perfect person. I have many days that are not good, and I have doubts and fears and hesitations just like anybody else. But I feel like I'm a little bit happier than most because I always feel like I'm trying to make progress. I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to improve.
Mm-hmm.
And again, even though I screw up all the time, I make tons of mistakes. I just feel like, I seem to pass a lot of people up because of my consistency, because of my grit, because of my resilience, just my all out just
Mm-hmm.
determination. I live by these three words: courage, determination, and passion. And
Mm-hmm.
it's so important. Like that word determination means so much to me because I've been told so many, I've been given so many no's, I've been rejected so many times, and I just keep battling back. And I think that's where you're at. So I want to talk about the true grit and grace and kind of what that means. And I want to dive into, what really happened on that accident. And I want you to maybe take us back to that moment if you can. Take us back and share that with us.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I was in the fitness industry for 22 years. And so that was a full-time career for me. I had trainers that worked for me. I was sponsored by Nike. I was doing fitness videos. Before that, I was a professional dancer. And it wasn't just my career, it was my passion and my love. And running was my go-to. It was my therapy. It was, I don't know if you've heard that term runner's high, but that was my drug of choice and it was my escape. And one day I had just finished training clients. That day I had ran 11 miles in my best time. And I jump on my Harley and I'm headed home from work. And it's just a beautiful California day. And I don't know if you've ever ridden a motorcycle, but there is just such freedom in that. You feel the wind going through your hair, or maybe not your hair, but you feel it. And in the blink of an eye, everything changed when a guy made a left and he shot it out of a parking lot. And I didn't have any time to do anything except for try to jump off my motorcycle. My leg took most of the impact. I was thrown up in the air like a rag doll. And then I was sliding across Ventura Boulevard. And the whole time I'm sliding, what was going through my mind was, oh my gosh, well, I hope another car doesn't hit me, because, Ventura Boulevard, you live in LA as well. It's a busy, busy street. And when I finally came to a stop, I looked down at my leg and it was just broken into pieces. And my femoral artery was severed. And then I started screaming immediately, some cuss words. And then I was like, oh, my Methodist mother is not going to be proud of me for those. And then, like, it's crazy what goes through your mind. Here I am. I had no idea that this accident was, well, that it was, I was literally bleeding out on the street. Thank God a man, and I still don't know who this man is to this day, he ran over and he made a tourniquet on my leg and he saved my life, because he stopped or slowed down the bleeding. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, I may have to train clients on crutches for a while. So still my thought process was, how am I going to get around this? What am I going to have to do like that? And I think a lot of my growing up as an athlete and a dancer, that was just my default. My default has always been not woe is me, but okay, what can I do about this? And then, as I'm laying there, I realized this is a little more serious than I thought, because I just glanced down at my leg once, and to see your foot dangling off of your leg, and it was like my leggings were the only thing holding my leg together. I didn't want to see that again. And then there was one lady in front of me that fainted. People didn't run over to me. They were walking slowly. And I thought, oh my gosh, they are so scared of this situation. They don't even want to approach me. Am I going to die on the street? What's going on? Luckily, paramedics got there quickly. I was taken to the hospital. And when I got to the hospital, the room was just chaotic, because my husband is a cop, and the Brotherhood of the Police Force, news travels fast, so it was full of cops, and there was just this crying, loud crying, and I was like, what the hell is that? It was my husband. I'd never seen him cry. He's a first responder. He's 6'3", big tough guy, not the kind of man to cry. And he was hysterical, and I screamed across the room. I'm taped to the gurney, so my head's taped back. I can't see what's going on. And I scream across the room, Johnny, get over here. I need you to be strong for me. And he came over and he held my hand, and that's the last thing I remember before I was put in induced coma. And when I woke up, the first thing they told me was, we're going to amputate your leg. And,
oh my God.
And when I was out, my husband, they wanted to amputate. My husband said, no, I want that to be her decision. So I want her to wake up out of a coma with both of her legs. And so we found a doctor, and by the grace of God, that was willing to, save it from amputation, be that 1% chance. And it took 34 surgeries, and it was months in the hospital, and just thousands of hours of physical therapy. And it wasn't just, okay, we got through the 34 surgeries. It was years. In fact, when I was writing my book, I think it took me so long to write my book, because I was still in the middle of in and out of surgeries, because I would have a surgery and then I'd have just enough time to recover. And in the meantime, I was preparing for surgeries. Like, I was getting as strong as I could. I was training like runners train for a marathon. I was training for that surgery. I was like, how much muscle mass can I get on before I'm completely bedridden again? And then I would start over. And how much muscle mass can I? And then that was one thing. And that was hard.
So is that kind of what, I mean, first of all, I just want to say I'm like mesmerized with your words here. I mean, because that was just so powerful. I have the chills all through my body right now. I mean, that was just unbelievable that a human being can go through something like that. and then come out, especially how you came out. And we're going to talk about how, people can do that and how you can get your mind
Mm-hmm.
to do certain things that you don't think you can get your mind to do. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, was there a moment like that you just said, oh my God, this is just too hard? Or was it just that athlete in you that just kept pushing? Where was?
In the hospital, there wasn't, well, in the hospital, there was a moment, to be completely honest with you. This is so shallow to say this, but it's true. I was laying in the bed, and some of your listeners, some of the women might get this on a different level. Like, I was laying in the hospital, and my whole livelihood was physicality. I was known for my legs, and I was used to competing with guys. My training partner was a guy. I did Krav Maga. I mean, I trained boxers, and I looked down. All that was on TV was this infomercial. In the middle of the night, I couldn't sleep. I was in so much pain. And there was this infomercial out about how to get that Brazilian butt. And I thought, oh my God, I'll never have a Brazilian butt again. I'll never wear a bikini. I'm so scarred up. I'm scarred from my hip all the way down. I'm going to be deformed. Am I going to be able to walk? Like, all these thoughts started going through my head. And it was in the middle of the night in the hospital room, in the dark, except for the beeping lights and machines that I was hooked up to. And I had a moment of, how am I going to do this? And that moment is when I feel like it was really the defining moment of, am I going to go down this road of despair, or am I going to do something about this? And that's when I really turned to gratitude. And I did not realize at that time the power that gratitude can play into your life until you start to think about what you're grateful for. And for me, that was that I had a window in my hospital room, and I could see. I couldn't go outside yet, but I could see outside. It was that I was still alive, that at that moment, I didn't know if I was going to have my leg for tomorrow, but for today, in that moment, I still had my leg. I was grateful for little things like being out of a coma, being able to eat, the people that brought me food, the nurses that I had. So I started writing everything down, and that really shifted my perspective. And really, when you start really counting your blessings and getting grateful, you realize all the things that you can do instead of what you can't do. And it really puts the focus on what you do have instead of what you don't have. So instead of looking down at my scarred up leg and focusing on that, I started thinking about, well, I can still work out my upper body. So I had a pull-up bar installed in the hospital bed. One of my friends brought me some dumbbells, and I did what I could to feel better mentally and physically for any way I could, and spiritually, because I feel like it's not just one thing. It is a mind, body, spirit transformation when you're going through a hard time.
And I think, I mean, if you look back, how many years has it been now?
It's been 9 years since the accident.
Okay.
And that, honestly, this is going to sound crazy too, but that wasn't really if now having the perspective that I have, that really, I would do all of that over again if I didn't have to live in pain. Because as a result of that accident, I was diagnosed with a chronic pain disorder or disease. It's called complex regional pain syndrome. So my biggest struggle now is that I live in constant chronic pain. It's ranked highest on the pain scale, and there's no known cure. So that was the time after dealing with that for the first year, the time when I was in my darkest place. I started drinking every day.
So is that the suicide? You referred to
Yeah,
that as the
yeah.
suicide disease, kind of?
It's dubbed
Yeah.
the suicide disease because when people find out they have it or they live with it, and they find out, oh my God, this is the rest of my life. I'm going to have to live with this pain for the rest of my
So what
life.
is that? What does it feel like? I mean, how can you maybe describe it for our listeners? I mean, what is going through that feel like?
Okay. For the listeners, if you've ever had sciatica or you've ever had any kind of nerve pain, imagine that 24/7, like it's nonstop. So whether that's a toothache or sciatica, or maybe you, and with the CRPS, it can be a burning, like for me, it's burning all the time. In fact, I actually just, I'm so grateful because I just got a car that it will auto drive. So I can drive further. It gives
Tesla.
me freedom.
Tesla?
Yes.
Tesla? Okay. I
Yeah.
love it. I love my Tesla. Yeah.
I love it. In fact, when I test drove it, my 11-year-old is the one that pushed me to go test drive it. And I test drove it. And when I did autopilot, I started crying in the middle of the test drive. And the guy looked at me funny. And I said, I'm sorry. I was like, you don't understand. I said, it hurts me so bad to drive because my disease is, I have it in, some people have it full body. I only have it in my right leg, which is enough. But I learned how to drive with my left foot. But every time I push the gas pedal, it's like you having a big open wound and somebody punching you on it. So when I found a solution, like, oh my gosh, I was taking Ubers to go across town because I wanted to show up not glazed over in pain. I wanted to show up ready to be present. And sometimes when you're in a lot of pain, it makes you foggy. You can't think as clearly. And that's a fear that I have, is that my pain will get so bad that I can't put together a sentence, and it's like a dull pain. Sometimes it's a sharp pain. Sometimes it's so bad that I want to scream uncle. And at the one point when it was at its worst, I went to doctors and I said, can you just cut my leg off? Can you please just cut it off today? Cut it off. And they said, we can't do that. You've got CRPS. It may make it worse and it could spread. And it was at that moment when I was like, okay, I have to figure this shit out because I can't live the rest of my life the way that I'm doing it now, because it wasn't working for me. So that is when I really hit rock bottom and became, had suicidal thoughts, was drinking every day, and was completely isolated, and changed my life because I had that glimmer of hope, like I had that 1% chance.
Right.
That's where the grace part of the book, I feel like it was God's grace, and I had that glimmer of hope, and I reached out for help. And so if anybody that's listening is hearing this and thinking, well, I'm in pain, and we all have pain, whether it's chronic, physical pain or emotional pain, which can be horrible too, mental illness. The one thing that I can tell you to do today is please reach out for help. And that's easier said than done. It was really hard for me, but
What
it
was
can
it
change your
hard?
life.
Was it hard because of the ego? What was it
Well,
hard because, like, why do you feel that it was hard just to ask for help?
there's so many levels to that. Well, first of all, when you're so depressed, it's so hard to even think about picking up the phone and asking for help. You don't want to talk to anybody, or for me anyway, I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to see anybody. I wanted the curtains drawn. I didn't want to live, but I was too scared to die. It was terrible. And another level of that is I grew up in Texas with, cowgirl up, suck it up, hide your crazy and be a lady. So you don't let people know that you don't have it all together. Put your lipstick on and go do the job you're supposed to do. And that helped me in a lot of situations when I was struggling, and no matter what was going on, I was taught early on as a dance instructor. I had my role model, Jackie Nutting, who was my teacher. She taught us, she said, I don't care what's going on in your life. As soon as that needle hits the record, you turn around to your class and you put a smile on your face. And so that served me until it didn't, until it was like, no, I'm not really okay and I need help. And
Right, right,
so
right.
it
So
was,
let's talk about that transformation and kind of really kind of wrap this thing up as far as like make sure that people understand that you can go from that dark place
mm-hmm,
to the place that you're at today. And we've talked before, and you're having so much, life is just amazing right now for you. I know it is.
mm-hmm.
And I hate to take you back to all those dark places, but I just think it's so important that people realize that when you're going through shit, when you're going through massive pain, when you're going through emotional pain, whatever it is, there is always a way out. And I want to hear your way out. What was that way out, and who was it that you reached out to, and what does it look like today?
Yeah, well, I think first of all, it is acceptance because I was in denial. And when we don't look at what's broken, if you don't admit that you're hurt, if you don't admit that something's wrong, and that could be from anything, whether you're in pain or whether you don't like your job or you're in an unhealthy marriage, whatever it is in your life that you're pretending that it's okay and it's not, or any trauma that you've been running from, or any pain you've been trying to not listen to, it will catch up and it will show up and it will come up in every aspect in your personal relationships and your professional relationships. It will show up. And so for me, it was acceptance. And it took a good, hard look at my life to say, okay, what is going on? And once I could accept what it was, then I could take steps to fix it. So as long as you take a step to look at what is going on, look within what's going on, take a pause, look what's going on in your life, then you can take an action step. And whether that action step is one thing that day, just to pick up the phone and ask for help. I called a friend, and although that took a lot of courage, the first friend was like, yeah, I'm going to help you. I'm going to come see you this week. And I never heard back. So I want to share, don't be discouraged. People are busy, life is in session. So if you ask for help and someone doesn't help you, ask someone else. And more importantly, you have to be willing yourself. You have to be willing to do the work, because nobody's going to do it for you. But it's important to ask for help so you know that you're accountable to someone, that you have support from someone. And a lot of times you just want to be understood and heard. And then it was doing things to shift my perspective. I came up with a saying, there's something I do every day, and I needed something quick now to remind me, because look, this morning was a rough morning. I got little things. It was one of those days, but I have one word, and now my husband even uses this on me, and dang it, I hate it when he's right sometimes, but I have this word. It's called PACER, and it stands for perspective, acceptance, community, endurance, and rest. And it is 5 things that I do every day, because it's not that I had an accident and I got over it and life is wonderful, or I had pain and now I'm all great. This is something that I do every day because I'm still in pain every day, and I still struggle with being an entrepreneur every day. And so perspective is something that we've talked about, is your ability to really, one way you can do that is to count your blessings. Another way, I don't like to think about the negative, but I do sometimes think about, well, it could be worse. And often, sometimes when I can't see that, my husband will point that out, or the universe will come along and show me someone that doesn't have the ability to get in their car and drive or walk to the store. And I know how that feels because I was there for so long. Acceptance, we talked about, that is some things in life I still have to accept, my pain being one of those things. Sometimes that I want to be further along than I am. And I'm like, no, I need to accept where I am now, be in the moment and be right here, and not be so anxious about the future, but be in the moment and truly find happiness. Community, when you do reach out for help, And that is when you start to build a community. And I had somebody tell me, well, you're really lucky you had a community. And I said, well, no, your hard work puts you where your blessings can find you, because it's not just about reaching your hand out for help all the time. You have to be of service to others. And then there is gift in that, because when you're of service to others, it really fills your heart and it creates community. And then endurance, because dang it, it takes grit. It takes a lot of grit. And I think nowadays we all want to increase our endurance, whether we're a stay-at-home mom chasing after toddlers, or we're starting a new business, or we're trying to build our business and grow our current business. And then the last part of Pacer is rest, which is the hardest thing to do for me. But it's such a good reminder that just like we charge our phone, or like I pull in my car and I have to plug in my car, I need to do the same thing for myself. A lot of us think that rest is a luxury nowadays, and we've got to shift that to rest is really a necessity in order to be resilient.
Totally. No, look, people look at me all the time. By the way, I just want to say that was well said. Okay. I mean, that's a
Oh,
cool
thank
little
you.
pacer. That was really, really well said. People look at me and they go, man, this guy's just, just nonstop, just go, 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 go. And people don't realize that I probably take a nap, at least every other day. I stop in the middle of the day and I take a, 30-minute to an hour power nap not every day, but almost, 3, 4, 5 times a week. And people, they don't realize that you have to shut down, relax, let your mind breathe a little bit, and then get back on it. And that's why I can pull, where I can just keep going. And I'm not a huge, I do drink coffee, but I don't need coffee. It's not like something I need it. I think some people, they need it, and that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. But I think I allow myself to rest when I need to rest. And I think it's important that people also figure out times during the day where they can take a good 30 minutes and just go turn it off, shut it off. One thing that helps me is I'll use I'll just watch like a YouTube video, and they have these 30-minute rest things where it sounds like the space. It sounds like it's like really pretty cool little things. I put on my earpods and I lay down and it shuts you off. It puts you into deep sleep for 30 minutes and then it wakes you up. It's so cool. But it's like massive amounts of rest in a short period of time. Yeah.
I use the Calm app.
That's good too.
They have
that's a good one too.
I'm terrible at, I'm getting better, I should say. I'm going to be positive about it. I'm getting better about meditation, but they have, 5-minute meditations up to 30-minute meditations. Right. And something I use every single night is they have different sounds, and I'll do the ocean waves.
Good for you. Good for you. Yeah. Good stuff, man. Look, the last thing I want to ask you, because you're obviously, you've always been about health. You've always been about, whether you've been a dancer or a trainer. What are some of the mistakes that people make when it comes to being healthier? And
some of the mistakes that I've seen in my clients, a lot of times, whether I still have a handful of clients that I train, and I still have, and I have a lot of coaching clients, and something that is similar, whether it's the, nutrition or the fitness or the life coaching, is they think they're eating healthy and they don't realize what they're eating isn't healthy. And
for example on that.
For example, it's a lot about portion. A lot of people think, but I'm eating so healthy, but then how much of it are you eating? I actually went to one of my clients' houses, and let me say, I'm not a registered dietitian, but I've been in this business for a long time, and I don't give an eating plan to any of my clients without me trying it first. And if they want to try something like some crazy thing like the fat flush diet, I'm like, okay, I'll try it with you, which that was hell, by the way, but it worked. But but like I went over to a client's house and she was eating healthy, except the lean uh the lean turkey meatloaf that she was making, she ate the whole pan. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's so much about portion, and there's so much that, sugar is the devil. And sugar is, I think, our greatest addiction that we have. And sugar leads to everything from every kind of disease, every kind, not just fat loss. I'm not talking about fat loss. I'm talking about health. And for me, I had to really dig deep because I always ate pretty healthy. But when I was diagnosed with a disease that causes more pain when it's inflamed, I had to really look at what I was eating and cut out any inflammatory foods, and learned that alcohol is huge inflammatory. And, I just had a client of mine was going away on a cruise with her new boyfriend, and she was like, she eats pretty healthy. But I'm like, okay, go through your day. What are you eating? She was eating pretty healthy, but then she was having beer every night. And I was like, I promise you, if you cut out that beer, you're going to feel better. You're going to feel clearer mentally. You're going to have more energy. You're not going to need coffee. You're not going to be bloated. You're going to start to see, you're going to be shredded by the time you go to this trip. Guess what? It worked. Like
Exactly
30 days with no beer, and it was life-changing. She's drinking beer on the cruise now, but whatever
That's
works.
great. That is great advice. Well, hey, look, the last thing I always like to kind of finish out with is, what's your favorite book? What's a book you could recommend besides your own?
Oh, besides my own, no. I think an easy read and a book that I've read a couple of times that it really can shift your perspective is The Four Agreements. I don't know if you've read that book, but one of the takeaways from that book was, don't take things personally. And when someone says something to you and you think, oh, it's all about me, and we have no idea what may be going on in their life, or the wound that they're still trying to heal. And they may have said something that hurts your feelings, but if you take it that and you look at it with compassion, it can really help you move on through your day and not get so hung up on some things. So
Very
that's one
cool.
of my favorite books, but I have
what about
this.
favorite movie? Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh my
What
gosh,
about
favorite movie?
movie?
Well, we turned on the TV the other night and Dirty Dancing came on.
Oh, okay, all
And
right.
then, I don't know if it's my favorite, but I've seen that movie probably 100 times. No joke, like 100 times. But I love The Notebook. I love
Okay.
Urban Cowboy.
Notebook. Okay.
The Notebook, yeah.
Urban
Love
Cowboy.
stories.
I guess you're from Texas. You might be from Texas if you like Urban
Yes, and I
Cowboy,
guess I
right? So,
like love stories. And
yes.
yes, and it's funny because my editor read my book for the first time and they said, well, your book's a love story. And I said, no, it's not. It's about like overcoming and turning tragedy to triumph. And he was like, no, it's a love story. And I just reread my book because I'm doing the recording for Audible, and I cried in the middle of, and I was like, okay, he was right. It is a love story. So my husband's
Wow.
the hero of the book. Yeah. So I love stories.
Can't wait. Can't wait. All right. Favorite food?
Favorite food? Well, gosh, if I'm cheating, I would say any form of a potato.
Okay.
Give
All
me
right. All
five.
right.
You can do, like I always say, what's one food? If you could only have one food the rest of your life, what would that be? I'm like, well, you can do anything with potatoes, so it'd be potatoes. But no, I like eating. This is so boring, but I love eating salads.
Okay. All right. Me too. I love salads too. Ice cream or cake?
Neither.
Neither. Okay.
I'm
Well,
not. No.
you're the first ever that said neither. So, yeah, you're pretty right on it. That's awesome. All I know is everybody that's listening right now, you need to go out and get True Grit and Grace. And this is Amberly Lago. What a story. I can't wait to read your book and the love story that I'm going to hear from your book. And I'm an Audible person, so let me know when the Audible comes out.
I'm an Audible person too.
No,
I go finish it tomorrow.
Okay, good. Because you just just make sure you put me on your email list and let me know when that comes out. Because I'm just telling you, I am inspired by you. You are a woman of a lot of grace for sure, and no doubt about it, grit. And I can't wait to tell everybody that I know about you and your amazing story and how you have really transformed your life and still going through so much still to this day. And it's just awesome to meet people like you that, sometimes just have to say, hey, look, we just need to do what we got to do and not play the victim card and just get the job done. Not easy, totally in the end, totally worth it. And but again, thank you so much for coming on Wealth on the Beach podcast. We appreciate you so very much, and I look forward to hopefully in the future reciprocating and helping you any way I possibly can.
Well, heck yeah, I'm gonna have you on my show. We're gonna see each other soon.
Let's do it soon. All right, everybody, make sure you follow Amberly on Instagram and on her podcast. She also, what's your podcast name?
True Grit and Grace.
True Grit and Grace.
Simple.
Okay, keep it simple. I love it, and I just want everybody to know that you got to keep dreaming bigger, but make sure that you do it now. God bless you. We'll see you at the top.